burn it.
Mine rare, medium rare. Just pull it off. I'd rather eat rare than medium.
I'll try to cook them rare, medium, rare, and once you put them in the tin and cover them up, they still cook. So shouldn't have any. I just got to.
I would like to call Congress back to order after a recess for engrossment. Reports of select committees, Congresswoman Good Fox.
Thank you, Speaker. Rules, Ethics, and Engrossment met regarding Bill Number ONCA 2259 and Act to amend ONCA 2195 to authorize appropriations to the executive branch in non-tribal funds in the amount of $1,726,401 and to establish an alternate effective date. The sponsor is Congresswoman Lemon. The final committee action was due pass as properly engrossed with yes votes from Good Fox, Keene, and Bighorse.
All right, thank you. Clerk, can you bring me that report, please? I don't see it in email. All right, we are now on General Order Day, or excuse me, we are now on third reading. Thank you. ONCA 2233, an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 6 of the Criminal Code on crimes against persons and to establish an alternate effective date. Congresswoman Stabler, as the sponsor, how would you like to proceed?
I'll close.
All right, thank you. Are there any members who would like to speak to ONCA 2233? Hearing none, Congresswoman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Speaker and members. Good morning. ONCA 2233 started out for me several years ago about an education regarding missing and murdered Indigenous women and the Violence Against Women Act. At that time, Olivia Gray was the Director of Domestic Violence, and she took it upon herself to make sure that I understood the law for these crimes. And I appreciate that from her. She was part of the authorship of this law. She included me, not just in the education of the law, but in the activity that's going on here at home for us. We hear about domestic violence, but it's always on the outside rim. It's always the hushed undertones. Since my time here, we've had a woman that was shot down in Fairfax on Main Street. We had a woman that I reported the first day I read a bill into this Congress that was beaten, stabbed, strangled, and left for dead on her own restricted property. That time on the restricted property, our ONPD said they really didn't have much to go on. They didn't think they could continue with the case. At that time, then Ms. Gray was contacted, SANE was contacted, and they brought that perpetrator to justice, and he is now in prison. And they did it through understanding the law and understanding what their capabilities were. So I want to thank her for her support and her education that she brought. I also want to thank Adam Trumbley. The first version of this bill, I wrote it myself, and I took it from Oklahoma statutes. And as we went through them, it was, we just kept talking about how antiquated the Oklahoma law was. But of course, like everybody else, I always think, well, that's probably the easiest thing for us to do. So Mr. Trumbley took it upon himself to do the research, and he said it's a much bigger law than just dealing with sexual assault and domestic violence. It should include crimes against all persons. So his work over this last year is so much appreciated. He took laws from Colorado and Florida. He researched 17 other tribes and brought us a comprehensive bill that includes all crimes against all persons on any level. And so it updates our nation. I think it's a prime piece of law that's going to be a model for other nations. I think that it helps us prepare for not just our police departments, but our courts and our Attorney General's office to know that we have coverage for these laws for our people. So I thank him also for his commitment to it and his expertise that he brought to the table. I also want to talk about how close this comes to us. I talked about the woman on her own property and the woman on Main Street in Fairfax. But we also had a day when a young girl from our Hominy community left home, took her mother's car, and disappeared. And of course, the family was frantic trying to find her, and they couldn't find her. I don't know how the connection to this team I'm getting ready to talk about happened specifically, but there was a phone call made, and it happened around 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a work day. It was when we were all going home. People were getting ready to cook meals, take your kids to practice, all those evening normal things that normal families do, and this family was in crisis. So through a cell phone call, they notified the right person who notified another team of women, and they began to work on trying to find this child. They were in their car, driving home from work, going home, cooking dinner, while all these phone calls were going on. And that little network of women who work with missing and murdered had the right words to use, they had the right connections to use, and they began to narrow that search down. That girl drove herself across state lines, got on a bus to cross another state line. And that all happened within 4 hours. She was basically helping herself to be kidnapped by sex traffickers. As they narrowed the scope down and it got closer and closer, as she was getting further and further away, they managed to contact the FBI. And when that bus landed, or they pulled it over, I'm not even sure which happened, they got her off that bus. That's a miracle. And it all happened with a cell phone call. So today I'm really proud of this. It's taken a long time. And I think I'll just end there. And I hope you all will support this.
Thank you, Congresswoman Stabler. The question is, shall ONCA 2233 pass?
Congresswoman Goodfox,
Yes.
Congressman Keene,
Yes.
Congresswoman Lemon,
Yes.
Congressman Maker,
Yes.
Congressman Potts,
Yes.
Congresswoman Revard,
Yes.
Congresswoman Shaw,
Yes.
Congresswoman Stabler,
Yes.
Congressman Tillman,
Yes.
Congressman Walker,
Yes.
Congressman Big Horse,
Yes.
Speaker Pratt.
Yes. ONCA 2233 passes, and there's an alternate effective date. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the alternate effective date say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. The alternate effective date passes, and ONCA 2233 is advanced to enrollment. ONCA 2258, an act to amend ONCA 2203 to authorize a supplemental appropriation to the executive branch and non-tribal funds in the amount of $4,231,258 to ARPA aid to tribal government, Skyway 36, and to establish an alternate effective date. Congresswoman Lemon, how would you like to proceed?
I'll close.
All right, are there any members who would like to speak for or against ONCA 2258?
Speaker.
Congressman Walker, you have the floor.
Just briefly, I listened to the committee discussion yesterday. Seemed to me like it was somewhat maybe teetering on whether it was going to pass or not. I feel compelled to just say a few things in support of this bill. It's a $2.1 million grant. We're also going to leverage this $4.2 million of more federal funds to enhance and upgrade our downtown air park, the hangar, office space, things like that. It's important. We're not to get too far into this, but we're also a part of an $80 million Build Back Better grant with no skin in the game, just being part of it. These improvements are going to be a part of that. It's going to help that with drones and drone activity and different things like that. To me, this is a no-brainer. It gives us the ability to utilize federal funds and enhance and upgrade a valuable piece of property. And, I think ultimately will enable us to make some legitimate money down there, provide jobs, other things. I hope everybody supports this. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Walker. Anyone else? Hearing none, Congresswoman Lemon, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good morning, everyone, again. Thank you, Congressman Walker, for the description. I appreciate your support in this. I appreciate you listening to the meeting yesterday. This is an effort to, like Congressman Walker mentioned, utilizing federal dollars to put money into economic development. And that's really what we're looking at here. And, there was a lot of debate in the committee meeting yesterday, and it was good because I was honest and spoke from my heart that this money could go to other areas. And I mentioned Speaker Pratt because she always talks about, let's get us off High Center. And I know that there's tons of, talk out there now. There was when I was running for office the first time, when I ran for office the second time, I'm running for office the third time now. And economic development has always been a huge topic that we seem to not be able to get off High Center or over the hump. And a lot of the things that we did with the consolidation, if you would want to call it that, by bringing all of our LLCs together, or LLC enterprises together. I know it didn't have the full support of everyone here within our chambers, but that's okay. That's part of what we do, and we have to move on once those decisions are made. And so we were able to do that. And I heard yesterday, which was really nice to hear in a Commerce, Gaming, and Land Committee, it was really nice to hear, folks that maybe didn't support the Osage LLC in the beginning, to hear them say, I trust you guys now. I think we're starting to turn the corner now. I feel that we are. We're getting good data. We're getting transparency. And so those weren't their exact words, but that's the gist of what I was hearing yesterday, which I felt that way for a while concerning our LLCs. So really, this is an effort to get some economic development in the future. Exactly what Congressman Walker said, renovations to our downtown air park, which we call Skyway 36, and along with some other grants, the $2.1 million grant that they have, and in hopes of having an aerospace type of development in a prime spot in Tulsa. Therefore, creating more jobs that will have Osage preference. So I hope that you can support this. I understand if your feelings aren't here today with this, but I really would like to see us put a foot forward with economic development because, like I said, this has been a huge topic. We talk about it, but we need to do something about it. And it is going to take capital infusions or, federal dollars appropriated to them so that we can make those steps forward. So I urge you to support this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Lemon. The question is, shall ONCA 2258 pass?
Congressman Keene,
Yes.
Congresswoman Lemon,
Yes.
Congressman Maker,
Yes.
Congressman Potts,
Yes.
Congresswoman Reard,
Yes.
Congresswoman Shaw,
Yes.
Congresswoman Stabler,
Yes.
Congressman Tillman,
Yes.
Congressman Walker,
Yes.
Congressman Big Horse,
Yes.
Congresswoman Good Fox,
Yes.
Speaker Pratt,
Yes. ONCA 2258 passes. There's an alternate effective date. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the alternate effective date say yes.
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 Any opposed say no. All those, the alternate effective date passes and ONCA 2258 is advanced to enrollment. Next is ONCA 2259, an act to amend ONCA 2195 to authorize supplemental appropriations to the executive branch and non-tribal funds in the amount of $1,779,568 and to establish an alternate effective date. Congresswoman Lemon, how would you like to proceed?
I'll close.
Right, are there any members who would like to speak to ONCA 2259? Hearing none, Congresswoman, you have the floor.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker. And I want to first start out by saying I appreciate the support yesterday with the legislation that passed for the executive branch and the non-tribal funds that went through yesterday in my absence. I appreciate your support on that yesterday. Okay. So looking at this ONCA 2259, these are, again, non-tribal funds. And I just kind of want to go down briefly and tell you guys a little bit about what departments are involved with this. And the reason I think it's important is because our grants department has been working really hard. We have, of the 19 grants and non-federal funds that are in this particular piece of legislation, 12 of those grants are new funding opportunities that we have received from the federal government, which I think is a wonderful effort that our grants department has done. And 7 of the departments are increases in the funding to their departments. And so I'm just going to go down a quick list and I'll finish up quickly. We have emergency management. They received a grant. Harvest Land received 2 research grants that works in consortium with OSU, Oklahoma State University. Our social services department received 4 grants. In this 19, the financial assistance had 1, education had 2, which also includes the WELA stabilization. The PRT men and women, the self-governance received 2, public health nurse received a grant, prevention has a grant in here, and our task, which is treatment against street crime. And I really there was 2 of those that they were received. So I would greatly appreciate your support in these non-tribal appropriations. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Lemon. The question is, shall ONCA 2259 pass?
Congresswoman Lemon,
Yes.
Congressman Maker,
Yes.
Congressman Potts,
Yes.
Congresswoman Reard,
Yes.
Congresswoman Shaw,
Yes.
Congresswoman Stabler,
Yes.
Congressman Tillman,
Yes.
Congressman Walker,
Yes.
Congressman Big Horse,
Yes.
Congresswoman Good Fox,
Yes.
Congressman Keene,
Yes.
Speaker Pratt,
Yes. ONCA 2259 passes. There's an alternate effective date. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the alternate effective date say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. The alternate effective date passes and ONCA 2259 is advanced to enrollment. Next is ONCR 2203, a resolution to approve amendments to the Articles of Operation for the limited liability company Osage LLC. Congresswoman Shaw is the sponsor. How would you like to proceed?
I'll close.
All right, are there any members who would like to speak to ONCR 2203? Hearing none. Congresswoman Shaw, you have the floor.
Speaker, thank you so much. Good morning, colleagues. This is an amendment to the Articles of Operation for Osage LLC. This is something that we worked diligently on in committee, and I appreciate the discussion. What the amendment does, there are several cleanups, some definitions that were added, but one of the things that we asked Osage LLC to do, if you guys recall, is to strengthen the language and make sure that some of the things that have happened in past are very clear in the articles that are prohibited. And that's what this amendment does. So I'm asking my colleagues to vote yes for this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Shaw. The question is, shall ONCR 2203 pass?
Congressman Maker,
Yes.
Congressman Potts,
Yes.
Congresswoman Revard,
Yes.
Congresswoman Shaw,
Yes.
Congresswoman Stabler,
Yes.
Congressman Tillman,
Yes.
Congressman Walker,
Yes.
Congressman Big Horse,
Yes.
Congresswoman Good Fox,
Yes.
Congressman Keene,
Yes.
Congresswoman Lemon,
Yes.
Speaker Pratt.
Yes. ONCR 2203 passes and is advanced to enrollment. ONCR 2202, a resolution to approve amendments to the Articles of Operation for the Limited Liability Company Osage LLC to the company and its subsidiaries from using company assets to secure loans. Congressman Potts, how would you like to proceed?
I'll close.
All right, are there any members who would like to speak for or against ONCR 2202?
Madam Speaker,
Yes, Congresswoman Shaw, you have the floor.
thank you, Madam Speaker. Congressman Potts, I want to, first out of respect, say thank you for bringing this to a vote of Congress. At this time, however, I must adamantly oppose, and I cannot vote yes for this piece of legislation. I feel like we must allow Osage LLC to continue with their business operations, and we can't prohibit some of the normal standard business practices that all businesses must be engaged in. I don't feel like Congress should be a business board making business decisions, and I feel like this legislation will certainly prohibit them, limit their ability to make decisions as a board that we have placed trust in to do good things for Osage LLC. So I will be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Shaw. Anyone else?
Speaker.
Congressman Walker, go ahead.
This is probably going to make my friend Frank mad, but I'm going to speak in favor of this. This is one of the reasons that I voted no to dissolve the ranch board and bring them under the Osage LLC board. To speak specifically towards the bill, and I'll make it brief. Yeah, it was mentioned during committee yesterday that basically the only collateral that could be used at the ranch would be the cattle. There's probably around $2.5 million worth of cattle that we have. If I've misspoke, then I apologize. I think that's pretty close to correct. But anyway, I don't view this as making business decisions for business boards. I see this more as protecting the nation's assets, and nothing against this board. I think this board is doing good work. I respect the leadership and the hard work that we currently have, but once this goes into law, it will apply to whomever is sitting in those seats in the future. And that gives me pause and it gives me worry. I think this is I think this is a responsible thing for Congress to do to protect the nation's assets, and I urge a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Walker. Anyone else?
Speaker.
Yes, second speaker, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Speaker, and good morning, Congress. So I've thought about this bill, and I appreciate the dialogue yesterday in committee. And I had some questions about how we're doing things now. And from the answers that I received at this time, if as I understand it, with some regards and some loans, then they're coming to ask for a waiver of sovereign immunity. And at other times, then it's been under the responsibility of HunKhah. And so kind of a little bit about how Congressman Walker addressed it. You know, that's the same, but I'm going to vote no against this bill, because as long as we're designated as a member in the articles, then I feel like there will be oversight, whether that be Congress or the executive branch's responsibility. And so I'm going to vote no at this time, but it's something that I wouldn't reconsider to look at maybe in the future. Right now, I'm going to vote no, because as I understand, the last loan that came through, the executive branch or HunKhah's position was deemed to approve that. So as long as somebody is having oversight, I don't feel that it's necessary at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you, members. So I feel like there was, a really good meeting yesterday, and going back over this resolution. And so I really put a lot of thought into it. I just went back and forth, and so I am going to support this. And I hear the comments of my colleagues, but I still, it is about the protection of the nation's assets. And for a minute there, I started to think, are we making a business decision? But I don't feel that, I don't feel that way, that it is making a business decision. They're still allowed to act as a business, and just what really did it for me was at the end of the conversation, and I pointed it out, and then another member kind of, said, yeah, exactly. So if we've been down this road, and I know that it's been mentioned, that's how all businesses, it's a standard business practice. Well, what we've seen in the Osage Nation for many, many years now, we're not a standard business. For one, we are all the owners. That's a lot of owners of this business. And a lot of people are affected. And the fact that we haven't been able to take the amount of money that we have put into trying to get business in this nation and have nothing coming back to the nation yet to show for it, we're clearly not other businesses. We often talk about the Chickasaw Nation or other nations who started out with $20,000, $30,000, and now they have, billions of dollars. And so we are not other businesses. And we have been down the road that we have. There have been boards before. And just like Congressman Walker said, no offense to this board. You all have heard me speak before about one of our biggest faults so far is actually having people on this board that we can trust. And I've said it multiple times, multiple places, that we are behind for the silliest reasons. And it's disheartening. And that shouldn't be the case, but that's what we've gotten. That's what we've had so far. And so we are finally in the position to where I think everybody in this room or most trust this board. And so, great. We're at a starting point. We're finally at a starting point. But we've seen a lot happen over the last even 16 years since the new form of government, but even before that. And so we as a Congress need to assert our authority where we can, because we're often the last people to know what's happening. And I mean, you can all probably have a story to say, well, gosh, we didn't know that. So is there people in charge of having oversight? Yes, the board has always had the ability to act as a business and have that oversight. That millions and millions of dollars that was going out the door, that was pre, all of us. What was it, 18, 19, sometimes they say $20 million that went out the door. That most of that was board approved. No one was ever going to, really go down for a lot of that, even though it was, it was criminal what happened. But it was at that point a civil matter, and there was what the Osage people wanted to see happen to those people who did us wrong. It wasn't necessarily going to happen because that was board approved action. So while we trust this board, we have seen multiple boards with folks that we could not trust. And so I think that, even I think the bill was withdrawn the other day by Congressman Potts, but I was going to vote for the fact that, Congress does have the ability to address certain things. So while we're not supposed to get in personnel matters, we can fully assert ourselves as legislators and the overseers of the money in this nation to address the Treasury. And so I was going to vote for that bill because we assert ourselves in multiple areas, like asking for reporting, but we don't get. And it's, so it's just we should put these things in writing and put them down, because so that you have something to point to when the time comes that something has gone wrong. And just like even this board right now that we do trust is frustrated with the previous board and the one before that, because they're still cleaning up a mess that has gone on. So unfortunately, that's something that they're having to see. So I urge you to vote yes. Any other members? Hearing none, Congressman Potts, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Assistant Chief, we may give you that 6-6 vote here, last bill of the day. I encourage every single member and every single person to listen to the congressional session that was held on April 5th, 2022. There's an update from Osage LLC there. We can have all of the confidence and hope and trust in the world with our new board. And that is a boat that I'm in and share with many of you, although some have potentially betrayed my position as otherwise. We have the confidence, we have the trust, we have the hope. But we have to listen when they are speaking. And we are hearing some of the same things that we've heard 7, 10, 12 years ago when the $20 million went out the door. We can have all that confidence, we can have all the trust, but it doesn't mean that we just can't do our job here. What we heard in that meeting, and this is paraphrasing a little bit, they took over WANs on October 1, and through their analysis, they determined and figured out that they had a shortage in cash flow problems and were not creditworthy. Yet our executive branch signed on a note for them. Where was our job in oversight there? We were told in that meeting that there's probably $100,000 to $150,000 of animals that have gone through the packing house that have never been billed back to the nation. So we're either not sending invoices, which is a problem, or we're not being paid by the nation for $150,000 of animals. That's assets. That's the transference of assets without compensation. That's a problem. We're being told by the Osage LLC board that they've been gifted multiple projects that they didn't ask for. This board resisted, they resisted, and then the project landed in their doorway anyway. They've begged for contracts that make them more profitable with our own nation, yet there's some resistance and those aren't being signed. WANs is headed into litigation for being non-performing on contracts with the nation. The board members themselves described that they are not even turning in travel for reimbursement because there's not enough money to pay themselves for travel. I respect this board. I understand what they're doing and I appreciate it, but this is all information that's been gleaned from this meeting, and it comes down to this. Before I was paraphrasing, this is a direct quote. Congressman Keene asked, said, explain to this me like I'm a 12-year-old. So all these entities, they're making enough money to be self-sustaining on their own, but not enough money to give back to the tribe in the form of a dividend. Is that correct? The response is they are not making money. So we're not making money at all. Mr. Freeman replies, how can you pay a dividend back to the nation when there is no income? They're saying these things to us in open meetings. It's our job to respond and listen. This legislation is a safeguard. Mr. Freeman noted, and I have it in my notes here, I apologize, they noted there's one business that is making money, $700,000 is their anticipated revenue. That's footing the bill for these other companies. We have changed the structure. We consolidated this board, and I think with that consolidation comes some new oversight responsibilities. And this is how we exercise that oversight. Oversight without a mechanism in law to exercise the oversight is us just watching it. And Speaker's right. We can just watch it go right out the door, or we can put something in law that gives us the ability to say enough is enough. This legislation is an exercise, and it's a provision that's already been in this operating agreement. This is not new. The ability for this body to vote the member's interest has been in the Osage LLC Act since the beginning. The member has always been able to vote that member's interest. And this does not hinder their business operation. It protects our assets. The business decision to seek a loan will still be in the hands of Osage LLC. They just have to come and let us know what's going on so that we too can take part in understanding what's at stake. Because the last thing I want to see is us lose assets from one company because what we're being told in these meetings is coming true. I told another member of Congress yesterday, when I go make a loan for an SBA loan, you have to know what your plan for the collection of that collateral is. I promise you, banks out there are making that note for how they are going to collect on our nation's assets if we default. There's a plan in place to come after assets, and if we aren't safeguarding them with provisions like this, we're at jeopardy. Let's manage that risk, and I encourage my colleagues to vote yes for this bill today. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Congressman Potts. The question is, shall ONCR 2202 pass?
Congressman Potts,
Yes.
Congresswoman Reard,
No.
Congresswoman Shaw,
No.
Congresswoman Stabler,
Yes.
Congressman Tillman,
Yes.
Congressman Walker,
Yes.
Congressman Big Horse,
Yes.
Congresswoman Good Fox,
Yes.
Congressman Keene,
Yes.
Congresswoman Lemon,
No.
Congressman Maker,
Yes.
Speaker Pratt,
Yes. ONCR 2202 passes? I think. Well, I don't know the vote. I wasn't counting, so all right.
yes.
2202 passes and is advanced to enrollment. All right, next is confirmation of appointee Susan Reiden, the executive appointee to the Osage Nation Gaming Enterprise Board. Is there any discussion? Second speaker.
Speaker, thank you. Thank you. When you, I haven't actually participated too much in this piece of this, so you'll have to guide me. Yesterday, when we discussed this appointee in committee, you know, I thought about my questions before, and I'm learning as I can't say new anymore, but I've always felt like and had concern with certain appointees.
I felt like it's political in some instances, most certainly. And I really appreciate being on this side, other than just looking at things as a constituent, in that we get information regarding the appointees. I love that, the resumes. The questionnaires, they seem like it's the same document that's been used since, well, I don't know, but it doesn't seem like a good document. It's not a useful tool. Resumes, most certainly. But the piece that I really enjoyed was the ability to speak to the appointees. I wish they were actually here so I could look at them, because there's some board members I've never seen. And because of the times, we have to do things virtually still in some instances. But one of the concerns that I had in asking my questions, because it was important to me, and what I'm learning, and I could tell by the last vote, and Congressman Potts, I hear you when you speak. I just, I wasn't ready yet on that, only because I wasn't ready. I had questions like Congressman Keene. But in that, I hear what Speaker is saying too. That limiting risk, okay? I don't believe boards should have the authority to go purchase land. I just don't. I think that's a function of Congress, because it's an asset. So I hear you, Congressman Potts, when you talk about that. I didn't like the answer that we received, because that's when I lost my trust in the gaming board and the executive team. That was a bad business decision that almost took place, and the only reason it didn't was because Congressman Goodfox was actually doing her job, and she was listening to their board meeting. And I'm thankful that she was, because we were able to address it and react to it and ask them to reconsider, not tell them what to do, but to reconsider that decision. Because it most certainly, that purchase of land was not going to be for gaming operations. And that bothers me. Another thing I've noticed about the board is, so Congress, we pass a resolution to support their annual plan of operations. But I feel like it's not the board's annual plan of operations, more so the executive teams. And that's something that I've just observed. I'm excited to get the Osage LLC's annual plan of operations. And because that's the way it's supposed to look. It should be developed. The vision comes from the board, not the guys on the ground. The guys on the ground implement a plan, just like our strategic plan. And so I've never met, well, I think I've seen Susan a couple of times, so no disrespect, but I'm starting to really look at these boards in a different way. Our gaming operation is very, very, very important. And we heard that a little bit yesterday. Those are the dollars that support what we can do back for our constituents. And listening to their meetings, we don't have time for weak board members. We have to have internal controls and oversight from a board level, not from a congressional level. To a degree, we have oversight, but as far as day to day, I'm looking for these internal controls at the Osage LLC and the gaming board. All the boards, the Health Authority Board, the Home Health Board. That is, to me, is one of their jobs. And so I'm going to be voting no. No disrespect to her personally, but this is based off of a business decision. So, thank you.
Thank you, Second Speaker. Anyone else? Congresswoman Lemon? Congresswoman Lemon, on this part in particular, you may keep your seat.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. My question, if you guys were listening in yesterday to Susan, it came out of, I had wanted to ask the question, but she brought it up in a way that when she was answering one of Second Speaker's questions, and it was about something that she said about the current board chair and how she really liked the direction they were going with the current board chair. how she really appreciated the fact that he ground them back into looking at their parameters of policies and procedures and how they should be functioning as a board. That's what I heard her talk about when she spoke about the current board chair that's there now. And it really piqued my interest because that's their responsibility on a daily basis with every board meeting, is functioning within their policies and procedures and their parameters and their articles of incorporation and operation. It sent a red flag up for me because, you know, that's an everyday thing that they should live by when they're in these meetings. So it made me think, you know, back to the point where we did lose trust. Maybe everybody here didn't lose trust in the board, but we did. And these aren't easy things to say because we have somebody who we are affecting their life personally with the decision that we're going to make today. And we talked to Miss Nancy, that one of the new board members for Osage LLC, or she's up for confirmation, about the human side of this and how, you know, it can affect people, how it can affect our decisions, how it can affect a group of people that feel that they may be under a microscope. Every single one of us sitting here have asked to be put here, and when they are on the boards, they're also asking to be put under a microscope. And I voted no on Julie Malone's appointment when she came up for confirmation last time for some of the same reasons that I'm going to vote no today. And sometimes change is good, sometimes change isn't. We still have to go along with it. But I'm highly concerned about the comment about coming back into the parameters and grinding back into, you know, to our policies and procedures. I think there's a possibility that they were lax in that area, and I'm not trying to be ugly. I'm just telling you, I'm speaking from my heart in the fact that it brought me great pause yesterday. So I know that Miss Susan, that I just need her to know this is not a personal, you know, affront to her as a person, as far as our relationship goes, but looking forward as our only revenue stream that supports our entire nation. I just feel like it is time for some change. So I will be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Lemon. Any more discussion? Are you?
Yeah, I think I will.
Okay.
Trying to decide.
All right, Congresswoman Stabler, go ahead.
Okay. You know, we keep talking about conversations yesterday, which were good conversations. And, but I'm thinking about why my decision is going to be no. And the reason, and it really goes further back. It's what I've experienced and what I've witnessed that's gone on with these boards. And I've been no votes on other boards too, for probably, I'd say, the same reason across the board is a weakness. When you're working for a board, you like to have an easy board. That's great. That's wonderful. One that you can pull along with you. But our boards, we've got to have that specialty. We've got to have that ability. I'm going to say it again, and I know y'all are tired of hearing it, that when I was at the clinic, I was dependent on the experts. I told them at the beginning, I'll clear your path, but I'm dependent on you to know your job. And for these people, that's what I expect, is not to just follow what's put in front of them, but to make the hard decisions and stand up for all of the Osage people on these boards. And so that's why I'll be voting no today.
Thank you. Any more discussion? I'm going to discuss. So One thing I want to say is, you know, this being my last day, official, like day of session, I don't know if we'll have any special sessions or not, but this could be my last day in session. I've been here 8 years. And I will say that I like that members of Congress who haven't quite been here as long as I have been listening to me. And I appreciate that, because I have spoken up a lot of times when I'm the only one, and I'll be real honest. And, you know, I don't know how Julie Malone feels about me, and I hate to even bring her up right now, but I'm just going to give you an example because I like to keep it real. And I worked really hard to, I felt like I literally twisted arms to get folks to not reappoint, to not vote for Julie Malone's reconfirmation for these very same reasons. Because, and then I heard so many reasons why people were going to vote for her. And they were wild reasons. And to me, they weren't directly related to her job as a board member and how strong these boards really need to be. I mean, I turned around and ran for chief to have the ability. That's how strongly I feel about these things, is I ran for chief to have the ability to put folks that I think should be on these boards, to have the spines that it takes to be on these boards, because I feel like I have a really thick spine in this Congress and in this nation. And so that's what you got to have. And one person said, well, she's the only one with gaming experience. Well, you could have all the gaming experience in the world, but if you don't have a spine to act on your expertise, then what, you know, it doesn't do us a whole lot of good. You have to have, I'd rather you have a learning curve and get in there, because you can learn the operations of this board. We didn't all know how to be on Congress, right? When we came on, people kind of look at us like, well, you all didn't know all that. No, we don't know. We still don't know everything. It's learning every single day. But some of us that put the time into it and don't sit here and sigh around and be in la la land and be ready to go home. I'm never ready to go home. I've dedicated my life to this place. But I know a lot of folks don't like to sit here this long and talk and talk and talk, but that's what our job entails. It really does. Because when we sit here and listen to one another and voice ourselves and listen, you know, I felt like we had a lot of back and forth yesterday, and I really had to listen intently and really swirl it around in my brain. So I'm glad that folks have been listening, and they're starting to get stronger and stronger and stronger, because that's what it takes in this Congress. Now, sometimes when folks aren't confirmed by this Congress, and I have a pretty good record of saying no in my 8 years being here, for multiple reasons. But it was because I don't need board members who are going to, yes, they serve. The Constitution, it states that the boards, they're executive branch boards who serve at the chief's pleasure. And that's all well and good that they're executive branch boards, but these boards need to be educated on their abilities and disabilities, but also encouraged to capitalize on their strengths and their own opinions from the information that they are given. So I agree with many statements by my colleagues in, you know, these board members have to be really strong. And, you know, like I said, sometimes I've you know, got friends that have done a lot of things, but I don't necessarily want my friends to be on the boards if they're not going to have the independence and be an independent thinker and do their best job for me. And so those are reasons, and I've got a lot at stake at this point for the things that I say about the board members or my feelings about a board, but I just really, for my people, for my nation, I want really strong board members and really active board members. And so I think that for the same reason that I felt like I twisted arms, because I felt like previous board members just turned to either the chief or the gaming executives and say, what should I do? And so that is not what we need. We need them to act independently, with autonomy and with strength. And so, because I feel like that hasn't necessarily been done on multiple occasions, and it is true, the strength that was, I saw a real turnaround when the current board chair came in. And I also saw a real turnaround with Ms. Malone, and I'm proud of her. So when I actively engaged the members of Congress in order to, if y'all recall, we had a 6-6 split, and Assistant Chief here split that vote. I had worked really hard the night before to get folks to see how these boards need to be and the strength that we need on them. And I saw a real turnaround in her, and I'm proud of her. And so I like it. And that's where it needed to be in the first place. And like Congresswoman said, those comments were made yesterday of, oh, well, they brought back what we should be doing. The current board chair kind of gave us a little pep in our step, and that's good, but that current board chair is no longer going to be here. And so now what? So we need, because that board is really powerful, extremely powerful in this nation. That's why it takes a real thick spine, because the power that they hold, and everybody says, this is all we got. This is all we got. That's right. It is for now. And hopefully we get better. We need continued strong board members. And so that's a five person board member, but 3 people are extremely powerful on that board. And so that's why it takes 5 strong people, because you never know what 3 that's going to be. So today I'm a no vote as well. I voted Ms. Breeden out of committee because she is qualified by education and experience. There are no ethical or legal barriers. All those statements are true. I don't know. I don't want to say that there's any been unethical activity, but just as the previous board member that I voted no for, it boils down to making good decisions. And so today I'm a no vote as well. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Congresswoman Reard,
No.
Congresswoman Shaw,
No.
Congresswoman Stabler,
No.
Congressman Tillman,
Yes.
Congressman Walker,
No.
Congressman Big Horse,
No.
Congresswoman Good Fox,
No.
Congressman Keene,
Yes.
Congresswoman Lemon,
No.
Congressman Maker,
Yes.
Congressman Potts,
Yes.
Speaker Pratt,
No.
4 yes, 8 no.
Okay, Nancy Benthine, executive appointee to Osage LLC. Any discussion? Congresswoman Lemon?
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members of Congress. I don't know if everyone was able to listen in to Ms. Benthine's comments yesterday. We had, I guess it wasn't an official interview, like when you make a motion for an interview, but she did attend the meeting. She was very open with her discussion, answered, I felt like personally the questions that I asked her, how I felt about it is that she answered the questions, and it satisfied me. Her resume, when looking at it, is really professional and really qualified, and the education is there, and her experience is there. And what I find really interesting in the dynamic that I think that she can lend to this board, one piece of the dynamic that she can lend to this board is that we all come to this table in elected spots with different personalities. We bring different baggage, but we also bring different learning styles, different communication styles, and sometimes, for folks, it's hard to navigate that at times, trying to understand how someone hears you or how you as a person may come across. And I think that one of the most imperative things that I saw on her resume, read on her resume, talked to her about somewhat, was the coaching that she does. And I'm not talking coaching as in sports, which she does, but as in a life coach somewhat, as a professional coach, as someone coaching someone stepping into a position such as what we do here. Lord knows I would have loved to coach. I just had to have Congresswoman Goodfox and Speaker be my coaches. Thank you very much. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that dynamic with the board members that we know that are there now, which I respect, I look at those things whenever I think about approaching which board member to talk to, depending on whatever topic it is that has piqued my interest or something that someone has called about a concern. Which one would you want to approach about it? And so I think that is paramount. And besides the fact of her education and her experience, especially with the merging that we are having and some of the little bit of the tumultuous relationships that are between one's members and the ranch board members, I believe that she's going to be an asset in that realm 100% in dealing with the human side of having to deliver either good news or bad news. I'm excited that she is willing to participate and be a part of our future, especially with the reputation, unfortunately, that the Osage LLC board still is trying to shed. So I hope that we all can get on board and get behind Ms. Benthine. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Any more discussion?
I have discussion, Speaker.
Second speaker, go ahead.
Well, I have a question that I don't know, and maybe somebody in Congress knows, because it does matter to me. I don't know, is that Jim Tremblay's sister?
Yes.
It is? Okay, so, and we know Jim is currently employed at the Osage LLC, I believe, in some fashion, if I'm not mistaken. And that brings me a little bit of concern because I've read her resume. Again, the questionnaire to me is useless, but the resume is strong, and I do believe this lady would bring value to this board because of her background in risk management. But I'm going to talk about something that's a little bit uncomfortable. I see that as an issue on a lot of our boards, is the nepotism. And maybe not on the board level, but within underneath on the operational piece. And it's not just the Osage LLC board, but right now we have siblings working for siblings. We have a possible board member that would be making decisions about another sibling. Over in gaming, we have a son-in-law working for our current chief, or not working for him, but there's no, I'll just say there's no separation. That I think is unprofessional, and it's caused some hindrance. We're all aware of it. We all know this. It's just the way it is working for a nation, and I've heard that, and I hear what people are saying. But at the same time, in a professional manner, That shouldn't take place. That's an issue for me, and it always has been. Right now, we have issues within the executive branch where we have departments that are full of family members, aunts, siblings, nieces, in-laws, and the excuse we always hear is, oh, well, there's a separation there. But if you look at our Constitution and read ethics, it's about the optics. So I want to talk about the optics for a second. When somebody even believes that there's something, favoritism, things of that nature, just like Speaker mentioned, you have friends. I have friends that I consider my brothers and sisters, just the way we are. But when you have that and you have the ability to call somebody and make a decision because of that friendship or family tie, that's unprofessional. That piece of it, I don't like it, believe me. On my Cochahee side, we're limited. There's not too many of us, right? On my Revard side, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. But for myself, I'm very professional, nor would I ever take advantage of that situation. Just wouldn't do that. That's not who I am. Because I know the authors of that Constitution, and I heard our people say, our people hate nepotism. They despise it. They despise it. They can't stand it, and they talk about it all the time. They look at it. They look for it, because that piece I'm talking about is that optic. It's the optics of something. So I don't know. I'm kind of in a predicament. So this morning I was going to vote yes for her because of her qualifications. But I'm just realizing that she is a sister to somebody that's already employed there. And I'm just going to say, to me, that stuff, that doesn't work. Doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I know from being part of this government reform that that is in our Constitution for a reason. Not nepotism, but the ethics and the appearance of and the optics. Our people do not like that. They don't trust it. It makes it creates this weakness and this unbiased. And I'm not going to vote for her today because of that. And I didn't realize that until this morning. But this is just me, one member, saying that I just can't support that. And I understand that sometimes there's folks that have been employed, and then all of a sudden their people become in a position to where they have authority. It's not their fault. I understand that. But with that, you got to make some hard decisions. And this is going to be one of them for me, so I apologize to Miss Nancy. Thank you.
Thank you, Second Speaker. Any more discussion? I hate to ask any more discussion because I'm getting the most size in this room. So I hate to ask again, but is there any more discussion? People got places to be. So steak dinners to eat, cook.
We bought.
Caesar salad with no croutons.
Any more discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion. Or not.
Motion to confirm Nancy Benthine as the executive appointee to Osage LLC.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Congresswoman Shaw,
Yes.
Congresswoman Stabler,
Yes.
Congressman Tillman,
Oh,
Congressman Walker,
Yes.
Congressman Big Horse,
Yes.
Congresswoman Good Fox,
Yes.
Congressman Keene,
No.
Congresswoman Lemon,
Yes.
Congressman Maker,
No.
Congressman Potts,
Yes.
Congresswoman Rebar,
No.
Speaker Pratt,
Yes.
8 yes, 4 no.
Right, Nancy Benthine has been appointed to the Osage LLC. Mark Bowman, executive appointee to the Gray Horse Village Committee. Any discussion? Any discussion or movement? Congresswoman Lemon?
Motion to confirm Mark Bowman to the Gray Horse 5-man board.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to confirm Mark Bowman to the Gray Horse Village Committee. All those, roll call, please.
Congresswoman Stabler,
Yes.
Congressman Tillman,
Abstain.
Congressman Walker,
Yes.
Congressman Big Horse,
Yes.
Congresswoman Good Fox,
Yes.
Congressman Keene,
Yes.
Congresswoman Lemon,
Yes.
Congressman Maker,
Yes.
Congressman Potts,
Yes.
Congresswoman Rebar,
Yes.
Congresswoman Shaw,
Yes.
Speaker Pratt,
Yes. Mark Bowman is confirmed to the Gray Horse Village Committee. We're now in motions and notices. And also, before we adjourn, we're going to have to recess because it is required that I do an end of session report. So that's got to be done. And so if you all are wanting to recess for your stakes, then okay. Or we keep rolling. So what'll it be? Congresswoman Good Fox.
Well, I make a motion for, I would prefer to keep rolling, but I need to make a motion to suspend the rules, modify the agenda, and place a citation of accommodation on today's agenda for Assistant Principal Chief Raymond Redcorn and Speaker Angela Pratt. I'd like to do that at this time.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to place commendations for Assistant Chief. I wanted to call you Ray, but I won't right now. Redcorn and myself to the agenda. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, motion passes. Congresswoman Good Fox.
Thank you, Speaker, members of Congress, those listening in. The Osage Nation citation of accommodation for Raymond Redcorn. Whereas Raymond Redcorn has dedicated 16 years of service to the Osage Nation and its people as an initial member of the Osage Nation Congress and as Assistant Principal Chief. And whereas Raymond Redcorn was an active member of the Osage Nation Congress, serving as chair of congressional committees, as second speaker, and as speaker throughout his legislative branch career. And whereas Raymond Redcorn continued his service in a legislative role as Assistant Principal Chief while also promoting the progress of the Osage Nation through the executive branch. And whereas Raymond Redcorn has been instrumental in the establishment of Bird Creek Farms, now known as Harvest Land, in his capacity as Assistant Principal Chief. And whereas Raymond Redcorn has earned the admiration and respect of his colleagues and the current members of the Osage Nation Congress for his leadership, dedication, and years of service to the Osage people. Now therefore pursuant to the motion of Congresswoman Alice Goodfox, the Osage Nation Congress extends Raymond Redcorn sincere accommodation and directs that this citation be presented. That is my motion.
Second.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor in the second. And that's why I asked if you all wanted to recess before this. So because in keeping with how we always do, then accommodation, then we would allow for discussion if anyone has anything to say for this man who has served the Osage Nation for the past 16 years. So is there any discussion? Congresswoman Lemon.
Assistant Chief Redcorn, Ray. I just want to say thank you for your advice and for your literature. I took it to heart. I still reference it, and I will pass it on. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Speaker.
Go ahead, second speaker.
I just want to thank Assistant Chief for, I've had the pleasure to work with him on the executive branch side as well as seeing him down here. And I too want to thank him for his reasoning and logic and answering the phone if I call with questions about the history of legislation and things of that nature. And I just want to also comment on something that those of you may or may not know. He's a really good committeeman, and our cooks love him. And I just feel like he's one of those folks that, like many, know how to separate that. They separate their position here, and then when it comes down to our HunKhah, he knows his role, and we really love bossing him around when it's cook time. Because at that point, he doesn't act like he's the assistant chief, but a committeeman, and he's really good at it. And I just wanted to say that because when I think of Raymond Redcorn, that's what I think about. And you've also been a great assistant chief, so thank you, sir.
Thank you, second speaker. Congresswoman Stabler, and then Congressman Maker.
Thank you. Well, Raymond and I have grown up together. We went to church together. We lived in the same village. We had relatives. His uncle was married to my grandmother. We've spent parallel lives going through the district, working with committee, whatever it was. So I just want him to know that I appreciate him and his service and his friendship and his loyalty. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Congressman Maker?
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you to Redcorn. When I first was elected to Congress, he really taught me a lot of how this government works. And another thing, every time I needed to know something and called his number, he always answered. Not everybody did when I called him, but he always did. And he always had good advice and good information for me. And I appreciate that. And I tell you, you're going to be missed in this government when you leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Maker. Congressman Keene?
I would call Raymond the Osage Godfather. So whenever I have a issue that stumped me, Raymond would be the first person I'd call. So I was like Jody. I worked with him in the executive too, and I appreciate your mentorship, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Congressman Big Horse?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, Raymond and I have known each other all of our lives. We graduated from high school together.
What year?
I just wanted to say thank you for your service and all that you've done.
Thank you. Anyone else? Congressman Tillman?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Assistant Chief Redcorn. I'd just like to thank you for your service to the nation. During this new government, you were right there at the beginning and laid the path and the foundation. Although it may not be perfect, it's a beginning.
and going to miss you. And you came from good people. Your father used to hang fresh vegetables on my doorknob all summers long. Always enjoyed that. You came from good stock, and I'll say one thing. You gave me a phrase. I text people quite a bit, and it's understood and appreciated. So I understand you, and I appreciate you. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Congressman Tillman. Congressman Potts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Assistant Chief Redcorn, when you look at these walls on both sides, which is something I do a lot of, there are a few people who have left a mark on this nation like you will have left. You've provided an example of leadership to generations to come. I think we'll see that in the future. I don't think you're going far. I'm not going to let you, first of all, but to somebody who has gotten in the details every time we've needed you, you've been there. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your example.
Thank you, Congressman Potts. Congressman Walker.
You guys are trying to make me get emotional or something. I mean, I will say I heard something funny one time. I think Huggy may have even came up with it, but behind my back, I was told that people called me Raymond Jr. But OJ did. I take that as a compliment, really. And another kind of funny story, and Congressman Bighorse, you kind of reminded me of this, talking about graduating from high school with Raymond. Early on, shortly after I got elected to Congress, we were just sitting there, and totally out of the blue, Raymond goes, "You know, I used to sit by you in my sophomore English class." And I was like, "What is he talking about?" Well, he sat next to my mom in sophomore English class. Of course, I was inside of her. Isn't that funny? Right. So anyway, Raymond, you know I appreciate our friendship and everything that you've done for the nation. You set the bar. I mean that. So you've left big shoes to fill. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and ask the staff if they have anything to say. They've been around Ray a long time as well. Staff, would you like to say anything?
Trey.
Trey's gonna get in on it.
Give Trey the
Come on in
microphone.
and grab a mic.
You come right
'Cause
on
this
up
is-
here.
This is it for Ray and I.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would just like to say thank you to the Assistant Chief. He was on the Congressional Affairs Committee that originally hired me here at the Osage Nation. It's been quite an experience. It's been a great experience for me and my family. So had a lot of good laughs with you. Been ridiculed for being your friend.
Oh my God.
Especially after you went to the other side. But I've really appreciated working with you and really look up to you. So.
He was on Congressional Affairs when I was hired too. And I just have to thank him. There were many days when I very first came to Congress that he'd come sit at my desk and ask me, "How's it going? What do you think?" And not that what I thought mattered, but it was awesome to get his input and his insight. And it's been awesome to see how he has had an effect on this nation. Even if it's been behind the scenes, he's put bugs in people's ears, he's sparked conversations, he's always there, whether we admit it or not, he's always there, giving us his 2 cents. And doesn't matter if it has to do with politics, if it has to do with cooking, if it has to do with antiques. he's there giving us his 2 cents, and I value his friendship, and I value what he has provided to this nation. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, so all those in favor, or I'm sorry, I'm trying to not cry, so I hate crying in front of people, so I know, too late. He just literally showed me an antique a minute ago when we had a moment to speak. He's like, got all giddy and check this out, and I could see this, and told me the whole story, and that's what he said, look at what I'm going to do in my retirement. I was like, yes, let me see. I need ideas. So, we might go into that. There's all kinds of antique crap around my house too. So we might go into business together. I want to say Ray, iPad Ray, all the things you have allowed me to call you over the years, because I love your sense of humor. I've cherished our friendship, and you'll always be my friend. And I appreciate your mentorship, and I appreciate you caring about me and my family, speaking with me about my children, our your children, our children. I just really love your sense of humor. And so I appreciate you. I appreciate all that you have done for this nation. And the more it's wild how in the Osage, his son and I are really good friends. Been close for many years, Ryan and I. And sometimes they'll both text me at the same time, and it gets really weird and confusing. But I was like, it's okay. We talk awful with both of them, so it's funny. But my point is, when we are in this nation, you never know. Ryan and I were dropping our kids off at school, and we got out there and we're talking, and you can literally discover that you're related to each other years after you didn't know you were closely related to each other. And so Ryan and I discovered that, how we were related. And, we talked about that, because I think at first we probably thought our children would end up together. And then now we got to talk about that. So, I just appreciate the friendship that we've established. You and I have gone at it a few times, but it's done out of love and the true care for our people. It runs deep, and so we're related. And then we also discovered that my great-grandfather was raised by a stepfather. Raymond Redcorn was a stepfather to my grandfather, Ralph Malone. And so they were on the census together and shared the household. And so, again, after all these years, we've sat here together and worked together. We discovered those couple of things. And so it's just a trip, that how you can be in the nation and discover that just in the morning before school, or, that's what I like about our people. You can have those kind of moments and stuff. And so that's pretty cool. So anyways, I thank you and Lulu and looking forward to the homemade cheese, and just continuing our friendship and all those things that you're really good at a lot of things. And so thank you for being a blessing to this nation and the time that we've spent together. And we have lots of funny notes, because we haven't been passing a whole lot of notes lately because of the way we're sitting now, but y'all know how the note passing goes around in this place, and it's hilarious. And so we have some good notes to look back on. And I just thank you, and God bless you, and thank you for all you've done for our people. So, yes, did we say all those in favor? Say yes.
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 All right. And now, Assistant Chief Raymond Redcorn has some words for us.
I'm glad I didn't have to break a tie for that.
Dang it, we should have done that.
Wait, come
Yeah.
up here and let me put this blanket on you and you can speak from here.
Oh, gosh.
Well, I'll make this very brief. Two or three things came to mind. None of them fit together, but to your comments, Jody, I never can help but remember words of wisdom from one of my arch rivals in the Congress early on, Cuggy Supernaw, who said, "Whatever you do, do not make the cooks mad." In 2006, all I had on my mind was being what I think of myself as a student of history, had an opportunity to build a body of law in an emerging democracy. Really one of the last ones in America, one of the last places where you have several thousand people who belong to an organization and they can't vote for their leaders. And that was a heck of a challenge. I've told many people coming onto the Congress that first year and a half was just brutal. It was nothing but brutal, and we were all just trying to find our way through the darkness without a flashlight. And it took about a year and a half for us to, and I felt, using of all things, a skiing analogy, I felt like we kind of got up on top of the wave finally. I will never, it was 18 months in before we went through a whole session the way you go through a session now, because generally there were at least 2 or 3 hours of breaks to go in and read the rules that we'd passed and try to figure out how we were going. I mean, Trey was still doing that when he first got here, but there's a lot to go on today. I don't want to go on any further than that. Thank you all. It's been kind of a wild ride, but certainly an educational one. You just really don't know how much you don't know until you get up and do this for a while, and you learn a lot. So thank you all. Thank you to the Osage people from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate it.
That's no kidding.
The Osage Nation, citation of accommodation for Angela M. Pratt. Whereas Angela M. Pratt has dedicated 8 years of service to the Osage Nation and its people as a member of the Osage Nation Congress, serving 4 of those years as its speaker. And whereas Angela M. Pratt, being a proponent for the Osage people and buying back land within the Osage Nation territory, sponsored legislation to place over $7 million in real property purchase fund of the Osage Nation. And whereas Angela M. Pratt, a veteran of the United States Army, has supported veteran issues by sponsoring legislation to fund the completion of the Osage War Memorial and to support the National Native American Veterans Memorial at the National Museum of the American Indian. And whereas Angela M. Pratt, in addition to supporting education, healthcare, and direct services to the Osage people, has also supported elders through legislation to construct assisted living facilities, a funeral services facility, and to establish dedicated Osage elder parking spaces at public buildings of the Osage Nation. And whereas Angela M. Pratt has been a fierce guardian of the historical language and culture of the Wajaji, and whereas Angela M. Pratt has earned the admiration and respect of her colleagues and the current members of the Osage Nation Congress for her leadership, dedication, and years of service to the Osage people. Now therefore, pursuant to the motion of Congresswoman Alice Goodfox, the Osage Nation Congress extends to Angela M. Pratt sincere accommodation and directs that this citation be presented. That is my motion.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? Congressman Keene.
Yeah, so I came in, it was kind of a crazy time during COVID. And, you know, Speaker Pratt, you're like a lighthouse. Like, we knew everything would be okay if you were here, so I want to thank you for that. Thank you for your service, too.
Thank you, Congressman Keene. Congresswoman Shaw.
I'm such a softie. I'm not even sure if I can get through this, but I just want you to know and remember this always, how much I respect you and how I recognize how hard you've worked during the 2 years I've been here. APC said you don't know what you don't know until you get here, and that's true. And I have so much respect and care and love for your family, and I wish you the best in whatever you do next, because I know it's going to be great. Thank you for all your help, and I appreciate everything you've done for this nation and for me personally as a new congressperson.
Thank you, Congresswoman Shaw. Second speaker, Revard.
Thank you. Well, all the newbies are going to go because I know all you older folks will probably really be talking a lot. But so as second speaker, you know, Angela told me, she said, you can do it. So I was like, what is that? What does that mean? I don't even really know what that is. Well, read the rules. It'll tell you what your responsibilities are. And I'm a woman, just as Paula and Pam and Alice and Ange, Brandy. And God made women, and He made us to cry. There's nothing wrong with that. He gave us the compassion to come out and to speak where a man can't. And it's been a different learning experience for me here alongside with Speaker, because I didn't know a lot and I had to come in and learn, and I'm open to learn, but she helped me through and took my calls, and sometimes it was hours because she's dedicated to this nation like no other. And I mean that when I say she doesn't have a time clock when she stops. Didn't matter. Could be 6 a.m. till midnight, which we've done. In fact, she fell asleep talking to me. And I just had to hang up. But it's her compassion. And we had to do this going through COVID, a pandemic. And I respect her. She's fearless. Fearless, like no other. And, you know, she sees herself as a servant, but she recognizes herself as a leader. And somebody made a point to me one time. Who do you want to stand behind if you're going to war? I said Angela Pratt, because she's going to protect me more than most men. She would fight for every one of us in here, including our kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews, and all children and elders. Without a doubt, you don't have to question that. She would go in a burning building first. That's what kind of person she is. And I respect that, and I want you to, I respect your love and compassion for your culture. You know your family, you know our people. You're a cook, and that makes you more beautiful as a person. But I want you to look at these pictures up here, and I want you to see the women in here. There's few. Camille Painburn, God rest her soul, opened up that door for us. And Rosemary Shaw. Not Rosemary Shaw, Rosemary Woods, excuse me, but her too. And all of these women, and there's a common thread here. It's compassion. And we've been called a lot of things since we've been here. Those women. We've been called that by other women. those women, and guess what? I'm proud of that. And I'm proud that I'm here to serve with these women. So I just want to say thank you and washkon, and God bless you.
Thank you. Second speaker. Congresswoman Stabler.
I knew the state was going to be tough. Angela and I bonded over families. She's the oldest of 6. I'm the oldest of 6. Spent a lot of hours talking about that. We're also the oldest. She's like, she's someone that I'm so proud to have gotten to know, and I've always known of her, especially her years while she was in service. I would hear about her a lot. But I'm so glad to have had these last 4 years to get to know her, because I feel like we've really become like, she's become like my little sister. And we dig at each other, we argue with each other, and we can spend hours talking about loving each other. So I appreciate the time, the support she got me through, and I wish nothing but the best for you.
Thank you. Assistant Chief.
Well, if they gave out awards for political incorrectness, I think you would pretty much pick it up. I've never worked with anyone that had the courage to say the things that you said. But as everybody in this room knows, you speak from your heart, and I think we can always use more of that. I think you don't make a lot of progress sometimes if you don't do that, if you don't really say what you've got on your mind. That's what I appreciate about you. Has it been gasp worthy 1 or 2 times? Yeah, but terribly entertaining at times as well. And I've enjoyed it. I must say, I really, I really have enjoyed it.
But I wasn't wrong, was I?
But anyway, that's what I wanted to say. God bless you, and God bless your family, and best of luck to you. Godspeed.
Thank you so much, Assistant Chief. Congresswoman Lemon.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And so I'm really happy that we've got to know each other. I think we probably met on the basketball court many, many years ago. And it's funny because when we were on the campaign trail, I remember I was talking to Marsha Harlan. She's like, I don't think them girls like you, you know, and she was just telling me, and I was like, well, how come? Because I stole Alice's campaign material and wrote notes on it for myself. Where were we at? Were we in Kansas? California. Oh, I'm getting ready to head there tomorrow. They were looking and everything. And anyways, we kind of got past that about, 6 months in maybe, I think. And, we had a really hard vote right when we came in, in 2018. And it really set the tone for me on what kind of relationships I would have here moving forward. And, my first term's coming to an end, and I've learned a lot. And I think one of the conversations that we had was how much we love what we do, but the heartfelt anguish that goes into it on some of the decisions that we have to make that maybe we don't want to make, but we make them. And sometimes they're not popular. And sometimes people are afraid to vote no. And sometimes they're not. But I always knew that if we had that conversation, we never betrayed one another in that aspect. And the compassion and the passion that you feel, I hear it in your voice every time you speak. And I'm glad that you haven't lost that, and I hope that you never do. I really do. And I fell asleep. You fell asleep on me one night, too, talking on the phone. So I guess I'll have to try that on you sometime. But thank you for answering the phone last night and checking up on me also. Thank you, Alice, for checking up on me, too. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the trust that you allowed us to have and respect it. And I can't wait to see what your next adventure is. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Congressman Walker.
I hope I don't cry, Angela, because you're going to say, see, I told you you're a woman, right? But no, really, I mean, you guys give me a hard time, and that's great. It's all in fun, and I appreciate it. I really do. I consider you a close friend. I respect you. All of these things that have been said are true. People are speaking from the heart, their heart. And, you know, the thing that resonated with me the most is what's been said is your courage. And that's really important to sit in these seats. And speaking of sitting in these seats, you could have sat in these seats for the next 4 years. But because of the courage you have, the compassion for the people, and a desire to make a change, you decided to run for chief. I respect that.
Thank you. Congressman Tillman.
Thank you, Speaker Pratt. And I just want to thank you so much for being a guiding light to young Osage women who are going to come after you. My daughter's one of them. She respected the fact. She knows what you did. She knows what you gave up. She knows what you were fighting for going forward. That meant a lot to her. She wanted to be a drum keeper when she was 3 years old. She wanted to be so many things that she thought women weren't allowed to do. Well, you gave her a light. And she respects you. I respect you. And I thank you for having that influence on all Osage women that are going to come after you. And I do believe there will be an Osage woman chief someday. And you help lay that groundwork. And I do expect to see your name on a ballot in 2 years somewhere. I hope so. But thank you for everything you've done for the nation and your service to our country, to your family, to our culture. But I do expect to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Tillman. Appreciate it. Congressman Potts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaker Angela M. Pratt. I think you might have been on CA when I was hired too. I don't know. But we've been through a lot. We've had our ups, we've had our downs. I grew up with strong Osage women in my life. Those strong Osage men that everybody talks about haven't always been there. Strong Osage women have. You're one of them. And the compassion for your people is unmeasured. Thank you for the path you've laid. Just as I said before, that will leave a mark for generations to come. So thank you for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Congressman Big Horse.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your leadership and all that you have done for us as Congress people, guiding us and keeping us on the right track. And I'd be remiss by not mentioning my relations. There are many people in this room that I'm related to, and you're one of them. When you brought up that Malone name is out here in St. John's Cemetery, and that goes back to an old lady by the name of Papu Sanse. And I just wanted to say that I cherish our relationship, and I love you, and thank you.
Congressman Baker.
First of all, just thank you so much for being you. I know where you get your toughness from, because I know all your people, both sides. And I see them in you, because I'm much older than you. And I knew them well. Your grandfather, Jerome, and your grandmother, Angie. I used to go down and play down there with all the Barnes kids. Your uncle, Barney, was one of my best friends. And I see all that in you here, and your toughness. I know where it comes from. And on your Pratt side, your dad, Mike. I was his pallbearer. So we've had a relationship that we know was there by looking at each other and a smile. But some people, others here didn't know what it was, but we did. And we always had that, always will.
Mm-hmm.
But I respect you for what you've done. I seen you when you first ran for Congress. You lost. You were way down on the low. But you came back and ran again. And you ran again until you won. And that's a lot of courage to do that. Some people just gave up. So, oh, gosh, I can't win this. But you kept on and you won. And I know all your people will be very proud of you, the ones that I knew I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Appreciate it.
I just want to say, I remember when you very first came onto Congress. And, you know, everybody in here has talked about your compassion and your passion. And your passion is what I saw when you very first started Congress. Because you didn't come in and want to sit back and get your feet wet. Nah, you went into the high dive and dove right in and sat on every flippin' committee and kept notes. She kept notes, had notebooks, and she was relentless on coming in and saying, wait a minute, on this day you said, and she'd flip through that notebook until she got back to that page. And she could cite stuff and call people out on stuff, and it was partially because of her memory, but it was truly because of her passion. She has a passion for the Osage Nation that is beyond anything I've ever seen. And we've had our ups and we've had our downs, but I truly value the friendship that we have created. And I treasure who you are as a person. We've had some intense discussions, whether it's been about politics, family, or our Lord. We've had some intense discussions and some intense prayers, and I treasure every moment of that. And I look forward to seeing what your next major accomplishment is, because I do not believe you are done by any means. Thank you so much.
So the ability to speak today kind of caught me off guard, and I appreciate it. Speaker Pratt and I bonded over my many early mistakes. She was quick to point out and wouldn't let me forget. But I do appreciate her leadership, her decisiveness, her friendship. You guys have something really special. The Osage, I had no idea that this type of society was out here when I came to work for the Osage Nation. I had no idea what it was about, and I've learned over a long period of time that it's very unique, very special, and very close. I've had the opportunity, the fortune to go to the dances, I've been invited many times to bring my family to the dances, and I've enjoyed it. What a wonderful experience that is to see from the outside. I can only imagine what it's like growing up with it. So to be brought into that fold is really something special, and I appreciate it. One thing that you definitely know about Angela Pratt is that she loves the Osage people. And I've always felt like she loves those of us who consider ourselves friends of the Osage Nation. And I hope that she considers me that. I will miss you, but you're not going to be gone for long. I know that. I'll always have your friendship. Your texting and GIF abilities are unmatched. And I can't wait to see what the next act is. So, thank you.
Oh, gosh. Thank you. Jordy.
I don't really know what to say other than I'll miss you. I really like having you around here. This was a big transition for me, and you have been super friendly the whole time, and I really am going to miss your humor probably more than anything because you're super funny. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Gotta miss you too, Jordy.
I was really nervous coming to this job because people warned me. They're like, they're crazy over there. So it really meant a lot to me that when I came on that you were really nice to me. You were, if I made a mistake, you were like understanding, and your sense of humor I'm really going to miss. And I just want to thank you for the times that you've had my back. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Caitlin. That was awesome.
Okay, I think that's everyone. I would like for Second Speaker Revard to call for the vote on this. And it's appropriate because she is our second speaker and fills in for our speaker.
Okay, all those in favor of the citation of accommodation for Speaker Pratt, say yes.
Yes. Yes.
So, it passes.
Yes.
Where's my crown? Hey, I'm just kidding. That's awesome. Wow. These are great. Thank you so much. My signature color. Well, thank you all very much. Man, I don't know where my kids are now, but I brought them with me today. They're probably in all the snacks, and I think they finished off the donuts. And I hope they're not eating the steaks. So, but I want to say thank you so much. And I wanted them to come with me today because they started all this with me. Those little boys were laying down at my camp on a little piece of carpet we had under the, at my campsite in 2014. And those little boys, they couldn't walk yet. And so they were laying down there. And they've been with me every step of the way. And I thank them for, and I appreciate my colleagues' comments on how much time that I've spent in this job, whether we try to go to, any function, whether I'm trying to make it out the back door, we go get in the car and they will literally sit in the car for an extra hour, just sitting in the car. But I put the windows down, or AC on for them. So it was not any danger, but they were literally set in the car and just sat there. And they got used to knowing that mom's gonna talk some more. And so I just, they call this Mama's Workhouse. And they say, well, I want to go to your workhouse. And so they like this place. And if y'all, some of you might remember at my mama's old workhouse, I remember them when they were tiny twins and little honeybee, looking at that mural, the creation and, them naked buns on the wall, them boys, I have those pictures and they're right up. I was like, dang, you didn't have to put your face that close. And they was right up there going, ooh, nasty, about the creation story because them buns on the wall. And so just little funny things I remember. And I remember sitting there, I think I was sitting next to Maria Whitehorn, Congresswoman Whitehorn, and I were in this meeting right from the get-go. And, I had my calendar because everybody knows I'm real particular about my calendar. Paper, I've got to have the paper. Even though we have all these electronics, I got to have my paper calendar. And so I opened it up and there was scribbles everywhere and I had every single committee meeting lined up and they just scribbled all over my books, and I always save that stuff. Because that was, and Maria and I just kind of sat there and we laughed because that was the beginning of how this was going to go, with me having 6 children and going into this job that I put every bit of my life into. And so I just appreciate my children and my family who, have been with me along the way and supported me and know who I am as a person. And the fact that I have missed surgeries, I've missed recitals, I've missed a lot of things of my children because I put this place first. And through this last couple of months, what I learned is how much they appreciate me, how much they love me, and how much they know where my heart is and what we do. And I talk to my children about being Osage all the time. And we'll even be just brushing their hair and, we tell Honeybee, Honeybee, you're an Indian. And it's like, I know, yeah, thank you, and they appreciate it. They like it. And who we are as a people and our culture and our ways. And so this has been such a blessing, such a time in my life. And like I said, I brought them today so they could actually see what Mama does, because I wasn't even sure if they knew quite what I do besides stand all over creation and talk to folks or sit on the phone, right? Because we spend a lot of time on the phone. So I wanted my boys to see, because they know that this is the end. This is the closure of this time in our life. And we don't quite know what's to come, but what I have learned is how special my family is, and not how special, I've always known that, but I'm saying how supportive they are of me. And so they because the way they came together was crazy, was crazy. And so that's why what I've learned out of this last few months in process is that I need to chill out. And while I still have passion for everything I do in my work, I don't want to miss recitals. I don't want to miss appointments. I don't want to miss these things because, the love that they have for me is like no other. So there's nobody else in this world that is going to love me and appreciate me like my family does and my children. And so I never want to put anything before them. But see, going into this, I was, that's just, I've been here 8 years and I've missed twice. Count all those days of session, count all those days of special session. And I've been gone twice because I put this place first. And because that's what I imagined that my people wanted from me. That they want me to be here when I'm supposed to be and do the things and speak the words that I should speak. Because, like I said, I don't know how to really negotiate. If these flowers cost $10 and I really want to pay $7, I won't ask to pay $7. I'll pay the $10 because I'm shy. People may not think I'm shy, but I'm shy in that manner. But if I'm buying these flowers for my people, I'm going to ask to pay $2 because I have the strength of our people behind me because that's who I'm acting on behalf of. And so that's how I conducted myself and just put all this first. And so I really appreciate all the words that have been spoken on my behalf, and the relationships that I have with each of you is, unique to just you and I. And so I appreciate that. I go away with, and like I said, when I went into this, I said either being the chief is going to bring me out of here or not being the chief is going to take me out of here, because I knew in my heart it was time for me to go from here. As much as I love you all and appreciate you all, and I'll continue to text you all and send you all the crazy messages that I can muster up, as Trey mentioned, to keep our relationships going. I'm going to do that. But it was time for me to move on because I felt I put so much into this. And sometimes, it's, Congresswoman Goodfox said long ago, and then she heard before her, it's a thankless job a lot of times. And, but I have tried to share words along the way in the recent months to leave you all with and encourage, and I'm still here for you. But I wish you all well. I wish this nation well. And even decisions I made up until the last minute today, I tried to do with strength and encourage others to have that strength, because that's what it takes in these seats to move us forward. And it was been beautiful to be a part of it. And so I look around and everything that I was a part of, and I can honestly say I'm proud to be a part of everything that I was. And I don't think that there's ever a day that or anything that I feel like I did that was wrong, if you know what I mean, in a bad way, have a bad thoughts or anything about it. It was all good. It was all good in my heart and on behalf of my people and my family and who I come from. And I think about those old folks that Congressman Maker talked about all the time, and Congressman Big Horse, because I know who I come from and the spirit that I carry with me. And even times, when we come with it, women come with that because they carry that in their heart. And when we shed these tears, that means our old folks are right there. They're among us. And I know they're right here with me, and I always try to fulfill what their thoughts and wishes are for us as a people, and for myself as a woman and a mother and an employee and everything, and do right by them and God. And I just thank God for everything that I've been given, and I truly mean that in my heart when I ask that all the time, because
I had a lot of rough years, and for me to, my faith is unwavering because I know that God truly takes me every step of the way. So I went into this process with absolute faith that God's going to have it be the way God sees fit. And I'm okay with it. And, you know, in that verse, you know, and if not, he's still good. And that's the way it's going to be and continue on. So I appreciate all of you. And I look around this nation and I appreciate all the words in this commendation because that's, I can't even think about all the things, but, you know, the ranch and the, you know, I spoke at the casinos, groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings. I've been a part of Tulsa, now Bartlesville, now Pawhuska, now purchasing the ranch and these veterans things. And I'm going to continue, you know, my work in that. And I just appreciate, you know, you can see your little mark on all these little things and that my footsteps were here. And so I appreciate that. And I'm proud of that. So I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart.
And often left it.
I'll make a motion to recess to the call of the speaker for the purposes of getting your end of session report if you don't have it.
Like
Second.
5 minutes?
Okay.
I need about 5 minutes. Jordan?